Well, hello and welcome to Studio 275. This is the first of our weekly broadcasts. Broadcast is a very posh word, probably. Of our YouTube videos discussing composing or conducting. This month, for this month, they're all going to be about composing. Now, if you already are an established composer, you're probably not going to find exciting things what I'm going to say. But basically, I'm going to divide these into 5 top tips every week and then elaborate on those 5 top tips. Some of them are going to be very technical, where we might discuss how to actually write a melody, how to develop a melody, how to actually construct a real piece. And what we'd really like is, when you've watched it, if it's brought up any questions that you'd like answering, pop them in the comments so that the next time we can discuss some of those questions. I wanted to say today the first 5 top tips, and I think the first top tip for any composer, established or not, is to write every day. It may not be a masterpiece, it may not be more than 4 bars, but it develops the habit of actually sitting down and writing some music. And I think that's very important, because if you leave, we've all done this, you write and then you leave a gap because other things take over, you've got other work to do, whatever. You come back and you find that your writing is incredibly hard. You can't come up with ideas. The ideas won't go anywhere, which is something we'll discuss in a minute. So I think it's important every day to pop something down on paper. It could be a melody. It could be just 4 bars of a harmonic progression. It could be anything. And top tip number 2 is not to throw it away, because it's not, unless you're J.S. Burke, it's unlikely to be a masterpiece every day, but it may prove something that you could build on a day when you don't really seem to have anything to work with. We know that Handel did this. We know that Handel put things away in his very old Baroque desk, I guess, and then brought them back out and reused them again as a different piece. My choir is about to sing the Foundling Hospital Anthem by Handel, but of course that doesn't really exist, because all the movements of it are extracted from pieces of music that he wrote that didn't have a success. The funeral sentences for Queen Mary, or other pieces from an opera. So he wasn't above reusing pieces that he'd already used in a different format. So tip 1, write every day. Tip 2, keep everything that you've written, because it may become useful. Tip 3, I think, is about sketching out the entire piece before you attempt to actually fill in detail, shall we say. I always use a big scoring pad, the big 18 stave orchestral scoring pads. And the reason for this is because composition pupils arrive and they've completed 4 bars of a piece of music, and the 4 bars are wonderful. Every detail is filled in, everything looks absolutely wonderful, but now they're stuck. They're stuck because they don't know where the piece is going to go. They haven't actually worked out how the piece will develop and end. What they've actually got is 4 bars of beautifully constructed music which won't go anywhere. And they get very disappointed by this and say it won't go anywhere. I think that's probably because you didn't know where you wanted it to go. It's I think, much better to sketch out, and this sketching may just be snippets of melody. It may be just a harmonic progression. It may be just whatever, just a basic simple idea, which you can then continue through, maybe not on the same day, but maybe when the inspiration takes you, through to the end of a piece. And the reason I use the scoring pad is because you can see the entire piece generally on one sheet of paper. I don't write on a computer, which some people do, and we'll come to that in a minute as well. So I think the idea of seeing it on a scoring pad, getting down as much of the basic ideas of a piece and seeing how it's going to end is something that you can then nip back to the next day and fill in some more details, a little bit of counterpoint or whatever it may be that strikes you as you're re-looking at it. I mean, to be fair, I tend to have a musical idea which will come to me, which I will nip down. And it tends to germinate in this rather fuzzy brain of mine, and eventually it just pours out as a completed piece. But I'm aware that some people do write like that. Some people may write at the piano. Some people may write straight onto a computer. Um, Whatever. There's no right or wrong way. It's whatever works for you. So just recapping. Tip 1, write every day. Tip 2, keep everything you've written. Tip 3, sketch out on a scoring pad. And tip 4, come back to that and pop in little details, because rushing a piece will never lead to a beautifully completed piece, and all that happens then is you rush on to the next piece to write that piece, and you end up with a lot of pieces which you maybe think, given more time for them to germinate, they would have been better pieces. Um, Tip 5, I think, is a really, really, really important one, especially when you're starting out. If you're not starting out, then this tip probably doesn't apply, because you may be writing to commission, you may be writing for various deadline reasons, but you need to write for the people that you know, the people that can perform this, or there doesn't really seem to me to be a great deal of point in writing 6 symphonies and expecting that somebody will beat a path to your door to hear these 6 symphonies and produce them and perform them. More likely, you could start with a small piano piece, which you could then give to sets of friends that you know that play the piano. Or if you're writing a choral piece, probably not a good idea to write a 16-part Latin motet when you don't have any singers at your disposal. I'm not saying that it's not a wise idea to make contact with performers and choirs and conductors in your area, and that's one of the ways that we build up relationships. But it might be better to start with just a simple 3-part piece where you could gather some singers down the pub and have a run through it, because not until you listen to a piece of music that you've written will you properly learn. We use computers, and the computer plays back what we have written, but it don't necessarily sound anything like it will do in real life, and also the computer isn't human. So lots of choral pieces that I see that come to me from composers, they don't seem to realise that singers have to breathe. So trying it out, trying a small piece out with a small group of singers, who don't have to be the world's finest singers, but it will give you an idea of what the piece is eventually going to sound like, and you can then take it back and make alterations based on maybe what those singers have said to you. This is difficult, this is a difficult interval. It may not be that you're not changing the piece, you're just reworking the parts of the piece. So I don't want to take up a vast amount of your time today, and I'm hoping that this might raise some questions that you might ask. But the top tips for this week: number 1, write something every day. Number 2, keep everything that you've written. Number 3, sketch out pieces in full before you start to put little details in. Tip 4 is to actually then occasionally look at the piece, let it germinate, add those details over time to make a complete piece, and take your time about doing it. And tip 5, write for the people that you know, so there is some chance of you hearing your music and then learning from it. That's all for this week. I think maybe there is enough in that little 10-minute snippet to cause you to think. You may violently disagree with some of the things I've said, and that's fine, because everybody has their own way of doing something. So thanks for watching. Share this around if you think it's going to be of use to somebody, and we'll see you again next week. Bye bye.